Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Let me just double check my audio and make sure that, yes, it is operating properly. We have a lot of stuff to share with you tonight. Ilan Pape, revisionist historian, detained at Detroit airport, questioned. His phone was copied. We'll tell you why. We'll update that story about the attempted assassination on the Slovakian Prime Minister. Trudeau's days appear to be numbered. Polls are not looking good for JT. And he has a warning about TikTok tonight. His estranged wife, Sophie, also causing problems for him, continuing to cause problems for him. And television appearance. We'll share her latest comment. Neuralink, looking for more human volunteers. Who wants to get jacked into the Matrix? A Jewish student in Canada. Better part of an entire community came out to walk this young person to school after being subjected to ongoing threats from other students who targeted this youngster because of being apparently Jewish. Alberta wildfire situation, we'll update you there. Fake news. I'll show you why I did not cover reports of an attack on a ship. And there's a boat that a person had in his driveway and got into a dispute with a neighbor, and we'll show you some unique pushback that this guy employed to deal with a disgruntled neighbor. Boy, it's amazing human beings get along as well as they do, given the level of conflict that we see just even at the neighborhood level. Neighbors not getting along. Nothing worse than having a neighbor you don't get along with. That's for sure. Stay with me. We'll dig into all the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts, and the conflict on the other side of this.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
All right, let's start off with some international news tonight. We'll update that story on the Slovakian Prime Minister, the attempt on his life. Authorities have still released limited details about the assassination attempt on Robert Fico. They have, however, partially identified the suspect for the first time. Fico was shot and underwent additional surgery. He remains in serious but stable condition. The suspect, identified only as U.S.S, is reportedly an amateur poet. At least that's the way he's being described by the mainstream media here in the West. From Levice, authorities describe him as a lone wolf, radicalized after the recent presidential election. Well, let me just say here that on Friday, police escorted the suspect to his home, conducted a search. They seized documents. A motion has been filed to keep him in custody beyond the 48-hour limit, with a preliminary hearing scheduled for tomorrow morning. The charges are attempted premeditated murder, specifically, which authorities call particularly serious. Deputy Prime Minister Robert Kalinak provided an update on Fico's condition, stating he is conscious and showing progress, though the situation remains serious. There's no word yet on whether Fico will need further procedures. It's our understanding he was shot in the stomach area and in the arm. Still not entirely clear how many shots were fired. Reports from the scene on the day of the incident indicated there were somewhere between 3 and 5 shots fired. The government insists that all operations continue smoothly, but questions linger about who is making high-level decisions in Fico's absence. Kalinak emphasized that Fico is still acting in his capacity as prime minister, albeit in a limited manner. 2 investigations are underway, one into the attacker, the other into the security response. Authorities urge against rushing to judgment as criticism of the security forces' actions mount. The political landscape in Slovakia remains deeply divided, with tensions running high. Yesterday, I spoke to the similarities between this situation and what happened just prior to World War I. Government officials have urged the public and politicians to reduce heated rhetoric as the investigation progresses. We'll continue to update this story as information becomes available and reaction continues to pour in and go viral, really. A lot of posts about this online, flooding the internet. However, because it was an unsuccessful assassination attempt, because he's still alive, the situation is not as serious as it could have been. The political fallout, still not really entirely clear how far things will go. I would say if he had been assassinated, if he had been killed, we might be looking at a bit different situation here. Fico, of course, I would say sort of pro-Russian, didn't want to fund the war in Ukraine anymore, described by some as left, others as right, far right. I can tell you that there's a lot of speculation going. Jack Posobiec appearing on the Alex show today. Let me just see if I can find that for you here. I've got a clip of Jack Posobiec making reference to all of this. Too many tabs. Too many clips. So much going on here. I had it lined up for you. No, that's not it. I want to share this with you because it's... Let me start over here. It'll just be faster if I go and find it again. I've got it. Here we go. All right, sorry about the delay, folks, but I've got it queued up here. So here's Jack Posobiec with his take, and I think it's somewhat insightful. I think his perspective is useful here. And here we go.
The question for all of us is Russia? So the real question for all of us is Russia going to stop? No, they're not. They are going to slowly use this war of attrition to wear down the Ukrainian government, to wear down the regime. They're going after Zelensky, and they are not, I think at this point, they're not interested in peace talks. They're not interested in peace talks at all. So the question is, NATO is going to respond through asymmetric escalation. So asymmetric attacks, assassinations, terrorist attacks. They're going to be attacking inside Russian cities. They're going to be attacking Russian bridges, they're going to be attacking Russian power plants, and they're going to attack Russian civilians. The question is, do they continue to attack Russian politicians, Russian leaders? And if there's anything that we see.
So the point that he's making here, I guess he's trying to suggest, is that it's NATO or the Western countries. This is some sort of a assassination being orchestrated from the NATO side against a pro-Russian supporter.
Any other terrorist attack, Crocus City, those guys just got their detention extended by another 3 months. I don't think they've yet to be formally charged, but they just had a hearing earlier today in Moscow. So the question, that terrorist attack that they claimed was ISIS. So the real question here for all of us, Alex, is how much escalation do we see play out that the Russians decide does not count as a proxy war? Because the proxy war is turning hot. The Cold War is turning hot. And we're going to see escalation from NATO as Russia advances on the battlefield. NATO will continue to advance in every area outside of the battlefield because that's where they're losing. So they're going to respond through these types of asymmetric attacks. It's going to be continue to go on. Look, Alex.
So you can go find that and watch the rest of the clip if you want. I think he has a sort of a valid perspective here, and it's in a roundabout way sort of supporting what I've been saying too. This war in Ukraine, it's far from over. We've been hearing, it's over, it's over, it's over. No, it's not. It's not even close to being over. They have more funding coming in now. They have from the U.S. NATO's retrenching. The style of warfare, the strategies are going to be adjusted. You're going to get a different approach to the war. As he said, the Cold War is going hot, the proxy war, everything, it's all going hot. And you're seeing an expansion of these things, and this is why everything is so darn dangerous. And then on the other side, on the Russian side, you see more saber rattling, and as they advance, as they win on the battlefield, they will find increasing resistance in other ways from the Western side, the Ukrainian side. So, something to be concerned about for sure. Now, what else is going on here with regard to that? Let's move to this story here. Elon Pape, controversial revisionist historian. He is Israeli. He flew to the United States and was on a speaking tour in the Detroit area. And as he was leaving, I think it was when he was leaving, must have been when he was leaving, went to the Detroit airport, says he was detained and questioned by agents there. Now, specifically, he said he was questioned by the FBI, but I can tell you that after looking at this story more closely, that is not the case. FBI has confirmed that they did not question him. It was handled by other agents, most likely from Homeland Security, but they have refused or declined to comment specifically because they want to protect the privacy of travelers. But it appears he was detained at the airport for a time and put this post up on Twitter. He is an academic. His perspective on, he's an anti-Zionist. He is a professor with, as I say, controversial views. He posted this after, I guess, being released and explained what the situation was from his perspective. He says, "Did you know that 70-years old professors of history are threatening American national security? I arrived on Monday at Detroit Airport and was taken for a 2 hour investigation by the FBI, and my phone was taken as well. The two-men team were not abusive or rude, I should say, but their questions were really out of the world. Am I a Hamas supporter? Do I regard the Israeli actions in Gaza a genocide? What is the solution to the conflict? Seriously, this what they asked? Okay. Who are my Arab and Muslim friends in America? How long do I know them? What kind of relationship I have with them? In some cases, I sent them to my books, and in some cases, I answered laconically, yes or no. I was quite exhausted after an 8 hours flight, but this is part of the idea. I guess this must have been when he came in. Yeah. They had long phone conversations with someone, the Israelis, and after copying everything on my phone, allowed me to enter. I know many of you have fared far worse experience, but after France and Germany denied entry to the rector of Glasgow University for being a Palestinian, God knows what will happen next. The good news is actions like this by the USA or European countries taken under pressure from the pro-Israeli lobby or as Israel itself smell of sheer panic and desperation in reaction to Israel's becoming very soon a pariah state with all the implications of such a status. Now, there's no question that Ilan Pappé is pro-Palestinian, even though he's Jewish. His work appears in a number of books that he makes reference to there. Perhaps the one most influential is The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. It has really formed the basis for much of the rhetoric, the ideology that is currently being used to fuel the anti-colonialist debate, discussion, movement. The pro-Palestine pundits out there really use his work as a touchstone, a point of reference for their talking points, and have for quite a while. Now, I can tell you as well that he spoke at several locations while he was in the Detroit area. I have here a clip from him when he spoke in Dearborn. And while there, there was one woman in the audience, and I did watch his entire address. There was one woman in the audience who came up and did ask some, I'd say she was the only one who asked him any difficult questions, challenging him on his points of view. All the other people there in the audience were sort of supporters of his, I would say. But she was asking about failed peace deals and Hamas. And he responded in this way, saying that he doesn't believe in a two-state solution. In fact, he starts off by saying Israel doesn't want a two-state solution, but he also comes in and says that he doesn't believe in a two-state solution. And that point is actually well established by him. It has been established in the past. You can find more references to it in his work and in articles written about him. He doesn't believe Israel is a legitimate state, nation state, and he believes in a single-state solution, a Palestinian state, as he states so clearly in this response. I'll just let some of this address roll here. This is
now, finally, I don't know where you got the information about Iran foiling the two-state solution.
No, I don't just Iran.
No, Israel doesn't want the two-state solution. No, Israel doesn't want it. But Israel doesn't want the two-state solution.
My understanding is that some of these other
No, that is not true. If some people, including myself, believe that the two-state solution is not a good solution. So you have some people in the Arab world who also believe in a one-state solution, but that's a Palestinian state solution. So I don't know about anyone in the Arab world who doesn't want a Palestinian state. So that's not an issue. So really, I think so that I really think that it's very important not to look all the time at at Iran and before that about Syria and other places as places that only produce aggression. These are countries that were colonized and attacked by American imperialism again and again, and they are fighting back. And I wish also for them that they would have a better regimes and more equal regimes and so on. But that doesn't change the fact that at least on the question of Palestine, they showed a much higher level of morality than ever the United States did.
Anyway, his address was about an hour long in Dearborn. He was also spoke in Ferndale, and I think he had a few other stops during his visit to the Detroit area. Of course, Detroit has a big Muslim population, I think the biggest in the United States. Dearborn, big Muslim community there. So that's why he went there, obviously. Now, he also ran in the Knesset elections in 1999 with the Communist Party-led Hadash. And he is very clearly anti-imperialist, which I would say means anti-American, anti-capitalist. He is a communist. He definitely has had ties to Hamas. He rejects the assertion that Hamas is a terrorist organization. He has met with the leaders of Hamas in the past, and during just recently reaffirmed his opposition to Zionism, writing that this violence, this is a quote, this violence is not a new phenomenon, and called for a de-Zionized, liberated, and democratic Palestine from the river to the sea. He called for the Israeli government to conduct a prisoner exchange in order to release the hostages held by Hamas. Capet's comments following the 2023 Hamas attack on Israel drew criticism from the Telegraph and parts of the student body at the University of Exeter, namely in stating he had admiration for Hamas militants' courage and ability to take over military bases in Israel, and rejected the claim that Hamas is a terrorist organization. So obviously he's on the radar for U.S. authorities as he comes into the country. They knew he was coming, and they had some concerns. So they took him aside, asked him a bunch of questions, took his phone. I can tell you this, I've been there myself at the border. I've been taken aside. I've spent, I was in a room with agents at the border at Detroit, going into the country. At one point, I spent about an hour and a half in there with them. This is a few years ago. This is long before any of this stuff here has been going on. I was just going in, and they went through my phone. They went through everything they could find online. They can take your phone, especially when you're a Canadian. If they want to, they'll pull you over. They'll search you. They'll take your phone. They confiscated it, and they just went through it. They had access to everything, and then they sat there. I had 5 agents sit and question me for an hour and a half. And everything that I was answering to the one agent, there was another guy sitting over in the corner on a computer checking to see if everything I was saying came up and was verified or matched. If he could find information about what my activities were online, he was verifying it in real time, and I was watching them. And I would be asked the question, and the guy over in the corner would sit and nod. if it was true and everything was true. I checked out. Of course, I was, go ahead. We'll sit here and talk all day. It's fine with me. No issues. So I spent an hour and a half in there, and then they let me go. I was going to be late for my flight. I was very fortunate that day. I was going to Las Vegas to an automotive event, and for whatever reason, they decided to pull me over, and I got the secondary treatment in a major way. So I know what it's like. I know exactly what he went through, I think, because I went through something very similar myself at one point. But that was okay with me. I really didn't mind, except that I was almost late for my flight. That was the only thing that bothered me. Fortunately, on that day, my flight was delayed. It was through some sort of miracle, and I was still able to get on the plane and go do my thing. But that was pre-pandemic. That was even in the before times. And that woke me up a little bit, because then I realized that they have a lot of power at the border. And what you do not want to do is get those guys upset. Just cooperate, just be polite. It was like, go ahead, you can search all you want. Go right through my stuff. You can go through it with a fine-tooth comb. No issues whatsoever. I really didn't care, because I had no power to stop it. And I mean, I cared. Who wants people going through all your personal emails and everything else, right? But there's nothing in there that was going to get me in any trouble. So be it. Go ahead. Other people maybe not so comfortable. And it might not be the right thing for them to be able to do, but they certainly did it. And because I'm not a U.S. citizen, somewhat subject to further scrutiny that goes beyond what a U.S. citizen, the rights that a U.S. citizen would be afforded. So a little bit different for me. And Elon Pape, I've got another clip of him here, just sort of explaining his position on the situation in Gaza. This is a separate interview, and he talks again about Israel being backed up by the West.
Of course, there is the legitimacy pillar, and Israel enjoys the legitimacy of Western governments, or governments in the global north, and therefore there is a sense that it can still be sustainable because of that support of the elites. But it has lost the support of the civil societies. And this is why probably it's the only state in the world that lobbies for its existence, not for its policies, not for its better economic performance, but for its very moral justification, and it's losing that battle. Just a caveat, as an historian, I can tell you that when projects like settler colonialism are reaching their last phase, unfortunately, this can be quite a long period. It doesn't happen in 1 day or 2 days. And the problem is, of course, that they become more brutal and ruthless.
So, I have to say that there's a lot that he says that I don't agree with, a lot. And the other thing that I take issue with is that he's been put on sort of a pedestal by people on the pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine side. But when I look at his history, I don't consider myself an expert on very much of anything out there. As a journalist, I've never, ever told anybody that I'm an expert on anything, because I have to cover so many subjects, right? But as a historian, I really take issue with his revisionist storylines. I don't think that he always tells the truth. And yeah, I don't think he likes the United States. I don't think he likes America very much, and I know he doesn't like Israel. But when I listen to him speak, it really reinforces what I've been saying here for quite a while. You're seeing a convergence of communism and fascism, Islamofascism. They're coming together in the Middle East and around the world. And what you're witnessing, he's quite right. He's saying that he believes that we are witnessing the end of basically colonialism, U.S. dominance in the world, the end of Israel. He's predicting it. He says he's seeing it. We're all witnessing it. And when I say that these protests on campuses are an attack on America, you just listen to him. And if you really listen to him, you'll get what I'm talking about. The thing that I learned about communists a long time ago, and fascists for that matter too, is that today they rarely, if ever, present themselves as what they are. They cloak themselves in something, a different label, a different name, a hybrid political ideology, something innovative, something new and shiny, new language. And that's honestly what Mr. Pepe is. He's a political modernist, a revisionist. He changes language, tells old stories and uses old tropes, and spins up a new narrative. And he's taking us to a very dangerous place. He is one of the key figures in all of this. He's the man on the pedestal. And all these other underlings have been feeding from him. He's been injecting it through academia and teaching it for years in the schools, in the school system in Britain. And it's now filtering out around the world. That's the source, one of the main sources for everything you're seeing right now. Now, you want to know why Homeland Security took an interest in him? That's why. Because he might seem like a kind, gentle old man, but he is far from that. He is an academic who has been spreading this ideology, far left, maybe far right ideology, socialistic ideology, anti-imperial, anti-American, anti-Zionist, anti-Israel ideology. He's been cozying up to Hamas, an organization considered by many governments around the world still as to be a terrorist organization. He has ties with some pretty radical political figures around the world. So they took a second look at him when he came through the border, and that's their right. I personally, I don't think that they violated his rights. I think that he was given the same level of scrutiny as everyone. It's just that in his particular case, which was also the case with me when I went through the border at one point, I just ended up on their radar for whatever reason, and they decided to pull him over. They did the way they did me as well, and they gave him the same kind of treatment. And he said that they didn't really mistreat him. They just asked him a lot of questions that he didn't really understand. Bunk. He knows exactly why they're questioning him. I know exactly why they're questioning him. And I don't have a problem with it. Frankly, just questions. Didn't hurt him. They're doing their job, keeping people safe at a time when we have heightened concerns about security. I just told you about the attempted assassination on the Slovakian prime minister. Imagine if something happens and somebody slips through and they didn't question the person, especially if they have direct ties to political figures and military figures that are linked to pretty radical acts. I don't have an issue with it. That's my editorial for the night on that. And I really don't agree with very much of what Mr. Pepe says. So, hate me if you want. Support me if you want. It's just another day in the world of news in 2024. Doesn't matter what we touch, it seems these days is going to divide us and get somebody upset. But I'll talk to everybody and try to find balance and real truth. And I'm just being honest with you. That's why they pulled him over. That's why they questioned him. And for him to sit there and say, I don't know why they're talking to me like that. Why are they asking me all these questions? I just can't understand it. Really? What's the word? disingenuous. I'll be right back. Stay with me.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, out in Western Canada, Alberta, the situation with that Fort McMurray wildfire seems to be improving. So that's really good news. Very, very good news. We knew that yesterday, big wildfire, it was only about 5.5 kilometers from the community of Fort McMurray in Alberta. Back in 2016, they had a huge wildfire sweep through the entire town, burning so many buildings, billions of dollars in damage, nightmares coming back for people as this fire creeps closer and closer to the town. It was inching its way toward the community landfill site. But now tonight, the wildfire danger for that area has been revised. Where it was extreme yesterday, tonight it has been revised and is now considered low. The wildfire danger is low in the Fort McMurray area and very high in the area north of Lake Athabasca, which did not receive rain. Alberta Wildfire is currently responding to an out-of-control wildfire south of Fort McMurray. A fire ban is now in effect in the entire Fort McMurray forest area. An off-highway vehicle restriction is in place in the area south of Lake Athabasca. The government there, emergency crews asking people to please be cautious when spending time outdoors. They say wildfires can start and spread very easily in dry grass. And if you do see a wildfire out there, if you're watching in the Alberta area or anywhere really, if you see a wildfire, you can call and report it. And if you're in the Alberta area, they do have if you're in Alberta, they have a number here, 310-FIRE. That's 310-3473. So that's very good news. Hopefully the moisture they've received there over the past day will continue to suppress the expansion, the spread of the fires there. Now we have video here of fire crews, helicopters being used in a new way. They're using night vision to fight fires out in Alberta this year for the first time. This is allowing the helicopters to operate in the dark. And that means they can extend the amount of time that they are in the air. And I think it's making a big difference this year. So here we go. So that's what it looks like, aerial view, nighttime, out in Alberta. And it is massive. It's still big, but at least now it appears to be under more control. It is And that the main fire that was really threatening the town yesterday, it looks like they've got that under control, at least for the moment. Hopefully they are able to continue their efforts out there in a positive way. So Neuralink is looking for, they want to implant 2 more people. Who wants to get jacked into the Matrix? I guess you can step right up and sign on with Elon Musk's company. The first human recipient of a Neuralink transplant was on television. Was it, what network was it? I think it was it CBS? Maybe it was ABC. Anyway, one of the 3 networks. ABC, I think, yeah. It was on ABC. So this is Nolan Arbaugh. He's 30 years old, and he says that this device has given him nearly full control over using a computer using only his thoughts. And we showed you a previous interview, a demonstration with him on this program before, with a video that was produced by Neuralink. And it is pretty crazy. They use a Bluetooth connection to wirelessly connect the brain waves from the subject to a computer. And so this gentleman is paralyzed from the neck down. He doesn't have use of his arms or legs. And it's giving him new mobility in a way that he never thought would be possible, in a way that I think a lot of people never thought would be possible. This is science fiction come to life. This is science reality now. Elon Musk doing crazy things with technology, cutting edge stuff, that's for sure. Raising ethical questions, making life better for people like this guy, but also raising a lot of very serious ethical questions and getting us closer to a transhuman reality as well, which scares a lot of people, including myself.
Hey, I'm Nolan. 7 years ago, I dislocated my C4, C5 while swimming in a lake. There were a lot of things to adjust to. Some things I would have never guessed would be difficult became very difficult.
It's Nolan's biggest dream right now to become independent. I hope that this study not only helps him to do that, but it also helps technology to advance in quadriplegics.
I'm really excited to be a part of this Neuralink project. I want to help out people down the road as much as I can. I mean, when I first actually moved the cursor with my mind, it blew my mind for like a whole day. And to be helping, to be able to be useful in some way, it completely changed how I live.
Wow. How do you guys feel about it? Are you excited, nervous, scared? I'm going to check the chat. Tell me what you think. Who wants to get jacked into the Matrix? I'm going to check over here on the Rumble channel. Let me know what you think. Tell me. Good for him, says Longmeadow. Michael, and a bunch of numbers, says, I don't trust Musk, anything he has to do with, period. And Michael says, garbage just like his cars. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Teslas either. Not at all. Just Medeb Oh, one says just his computer or any computer. Well, it would have to be. I think he would be able to connect to any computer if it's Bluetooth enabled. Raising Wolf says, Rick, show the video of Trudeau yesterday on his answer to end carbon tax for the weekend. I don't know where that clip is, Raising Wolves. If you want to send me a link, not a Facebook link. I can't access that. Stoic Teacher says, not good. Johnny says, if I was in his condition, why not? Lindy says, good for a person with his problems. Cross member 777, exciting medically, scary because will be used militarily in some way. Very, very likely. Weeby Jammin says, he is free now. And Stoic Teacher again says, introduced as a benefit first, but then, yeah. That's the concern, right? I've talked about that. Raising Wolf says, no thanks, it's evil. Rosie says, haven't been able to see an eye specialist since October, and yet these things are... Well, I understand your concern. We can't get basic health care, right? And yet they're expanding this kind of medical technology. That's also one of the things that ultimately puts more pressure on the healthcare system as well. As technology improves, if you have a new procedure to save someone from a heart attack, but it's a very expensive procedure and some people are getting it, like this is technology that can save people's lives, but it costs a lot of money. Do you have a right to that? Should you have a right to access that? Should everybody have a right to it? If a rich person can access it and pay for it, what about someone who doesn't have the money? Should a rich person have the ability, should they be allowed to just fly anywhere in the world and buy health care to save their life? What about people who don't have the money? In a society like Canada, in a country like Canada, they've tried to level the playing field. They have a concept of universality. There's only one system. Everyone is immersed in it. And you're not supposed to be able to jump the queue. Everybody is supposed to get the same kind of care across the board. I don't know if it's true or not. Seems to me that some people in elite positions still get favorable treatment, and people with a lot of money still leave the country and purchase extended health care, better quality health care, more expensive procedures outside of the country and other places. And they do jump the queue that way. So in that way, you still have a two-tiered healthcare system. So if you have Neuralink, if Neuralink makes people smarter, should everybody be allowed to get it? And if so, how much should you pay? Should it be free? Should that be free healthcare? Does it become a right, as some people might describe it, or a privilege? What are the ethics behind all of that? These are difficult questions emerging in a new era. I don't have easy answers. I do not. Now, a serial sexual offender has been linked to unsolved 1970s murders. This involving 4 Calgary females, women, girls. So these, as I say, these homicides go back to the 1970s. RCMP out there, police have linked the deaths of 2 girls and 2 young women in and around the Calgary area to a now deceased serial offender, a drifter. They released information on this today, shared their findings of an ongoing investigation linking a serial sexual offender to the deaths of Patricia McQueen, Eva Dvorak, both 14, Melissa Rahorik, 20, and Barbara McLean, 19, between 1976 and 1977. Now, based on forensic evidence, witness statements, and similar fact evidence, Gary Allen Sreri, a U.S. citizen who was born back in 1942, is believed to be responsible for the 4 murders. We have an image of him here to show you what he looks like. There he is. That photo released by RCMP in Canada. Tragic story. Let me just get back to over here. So, yeah, for nearly 50 years, investigators continued to work on this case. They say they didn't give up on their pursuit to identify the man responsible. And they say that identifying the offender does not bring back the women, but police are hoping that their families may now get some closure as a result of their work. Calgary Police Service is expected to unveil further details about their involvement in the days ahead. So, these victims, Patricia, known as Patsy McQueen, and Eva Dvorak were friends, and they attended junior high school in Calgary. According to the RCMP, the teenage girls were last seen walking together back on the evening of February 14th, Valentine's Day, 1976, in downtown Calgary. Their bodies were discovered the next morning laying on the road underneath the Happy Valley overpass on Highway 1 west of Calgary. Now, Melissa Rahorick had moved to Calgary from Ontario in the spring of 1976. She had been working as a housekeeper living at a YWCA in the downtown area. She was last seen September 15th, 1976, that evening by a roommate. She went out and planned on hitchhiking out of the city on her day off. The next morning, her body was found in a ditch on what is now known as Township Road 252. That's located about 22 kilometers west of Calgary. Barbara McLean moved to Calgary 6 months before her death from Nova Scotia and was working at a local bank. So on the 25th of February 1977, she went to the Highlander Hotel bar with some friends, last seen walking away from that hotel alone in the early morning hours. And then 6 hours later, her body was found in the area of 6th Street and 80th Avenue Northeast. At the time, that location was outside of Calgary city limits. Autopsies were conducted on all four victims. The causes of death initially for McQueen and Dvorak were not determined. Their deaths were not ruled as homicides at the time, but were treated as suspicious deaths. Both Rahorick and McLean's causes of death were determined to be strangulation. Their deaths were investigated as homicides, though. All four files remained open all this time. So RCMP say they found seminal fluid was discovered at all three crime scenes, but due to technological constraints at that time, they had no way of obtaining a DNA profile. Technology, amazing today. That's what they've used to connect some dots. And finally, they were able to reassess the files, and that gets us to where we are today. Initial investigations went on all through the 1980s. Task forces were created. They even recreated crime scenes and so on all through the 1990s, kept revisiting this case, but were never able to reach any kind of conclusion until now. After re-examining evidence seized more than 45 years ago, a DNA profile was created to be shared with other law enforcement agencies, and after work to build a family tree and further targeted DNA testing, a suspect hypothesis was provided to police. And here we are today. And his DNA, according to police, was then confirmed as a match to the unknown DNA profile present on all four victims. So that's a pretty amazing story. Truly amazing. And it shows how society changes. A lot of things change. If not for that technology, we would never have had that answer. And DNA evidence, if treated properly and not contaminated, is irrefutable. So I would say this has a high level of credibility. It's the real deal, folks. Now, what isn't real is a story that I became aware of a few days ago. And it involves the U.S.S. Mason. The Houthis claimed that the ship had been severely damaged in an attack, that they hit this U.S. Navy destroyer in the Red Sea. Okay, let me see if I can find you the video that they released. Now, I didn't bite on this. A few people sent this to me, and I was like, no, I am not running this. There's something about it seems off, and indeed, my suspicions were correct. So this video released by the Houthis and Hamas, and this is what it looks like. Yeah. So that's what they're saying is the U.S.S. Mason. Except that ain't the U.S.S. Mason. This is the U.S.S. Mason. That ship I just showed you, that's not the U.S.S. Mason. And I keep seeing videos like this online, especially on Twitter, which is becoming a cesspool of truth and untruth. When you see a video like that with music and production, that's not raw footage. That's propaganda. Just pure propaganda is what that is. That's entertainment. And I see some pretty distasteful entertainment circulating online right now. Videos of soldiers on either side being shot, killed. I see a lot of videos produced like that with Israeli soldiers being blown to bits with music, energetic music, making it look like an action film. It's really actually pretty disgusting. But they add the production to sanitize it and make it palatable to people. And I would say it even radicalizes people. It dehumanizes someone's enemy, you see, and glorifies the death. I really strongly disagree with that, the way of using video content in that way. It's wrong. They're real human beings. I don't care what side they're on. When people get blown to bits, it's not for the amusement of the public, and it's really gross to use it for political gain that way in a propaganda war. So the Houthis claimed that they hit that destroyer. The claim came out on Wednesday. They say they targeted the U.S.S. Mason and another ship that they identified as the Destiny. But the attack, as I found out, actually happened 2 days earlier, and U.S. Military Central Command said that the Mason actually destroyed an anti-ship missile that had been launched by the Houthis. Regardless, that video was released. It began making the rounds on social media. It did get a lot of traction. There was explosive footage of that boat. I mean, there was explosive footage, literally, of the boat being damaged. That video has now been seen about 1 million times. Literally, like I'm not making that up, about 1 million times. There's a poster, streamer, Partisan Girl, and on her channel alone, like 1 million views. But that's actually recycled footage. And in that post, the original post, there was a caption added that says, Yemen Houthi forces score a direct hit in U.S. destroyer Mason. This is all because Biden decided to build a port in Gaza to help Israel genocide Palestine. So that video, as I said, that's not the Mason. The film is actually, it's video shot about a decade ago, and that is footage of a missile test strike in Norway on an old Norwegian Navy vessel, the KNM Trondheim. So I held back. I didn't run it. I wanted to get the facts straight. If that had actually been the Mason, if it had actually been attacked, I would have told you. But like I keep telling everybody, we are in an information war, and it is easy to get caught up in it. I've been burned, and I've had to make corrections. You can't tell, quite often, what's real, what isn't. And the propagandists are hard at work out there. News about that test strike was reported by the Independent, Yahoo News, Daily Mail, and now you're hearing about it here. And that footage that you saw there, that's not the first time it's been used for misinformation or propagandic purposes. Over the past decade, it's been recycled a few times and used in exactly the same fashion. By anti-American, I would say, forces. Be careful what you believe. Scrutinize everything, question it all. Especially these days. Truth, it's elusive. Makes it tough to sit in this chair and keep things straight. It's a mad, mad world, and there is this is, I was thinking I've been thinking a lot this week, all the time. I can't stop thinking. But it keeps coming back to this, politics. It will drive you insane if you let it. Because politics is not always real. Politics is a construct. Politics is just stuff people make up. It's just ideas, really, that we turn into things that are real because people accept them and support them and decide that they're real. What is a country? Well, some imaginary lines around a piece of land, and we've decided that that's where the boundary lines are, and then you use military force to enforce those lines, and whoever has the most guns stays in power. Whoever has the most support of the public stays in power. People say we have a voice through democracy. Maybe so. That's as close as we ever get, I suppose, to having any power as individuals in a society. I'm grateful for that. At least we have some say as individuals in our communities. And yet we're under constant attack, aren't we? There's always a struggle going on, especially in a democracy. But these are all just ideas, constructs, and people, you think about it like, what is a law? It's just something we write down. It's a rule that we accept and support as a community. What's the community standard on these things? So if you really stop and think about it, as people challenge our government and say, this government's legitimate, that one's not legitimate. These are just colonizers over here. Or these people, maybe they were here on the land first, but we don't recognize them as ever having a legitimate government. Well, who says? Well, they say, I say, we say, they say. We're going to go back in history to this particular date, and that's where we start the history. No, you go back another 100 years, and that's where we start the history. And these arguments go around and around in circles, and everybody argues over what's legitimate and what real history is, and it depends on people's perspectives. And it's all just stuff we make up in our heads. And then you have the politicians and the bureaucrats and the dictators and the authoritarians and all the people around the world who want to be in positions of power, the kings, the queens. who sit there and fill our heads with these things, and we accept them, and we need to because we need some structure and stability within our societies. And while we get that structure and stability in societies, we also get these wars. And people die, and that is insane. And we've progressed as a species to the point where we now have enough explosive power to literally destroy the entire planet many times over. And if that isn't insanity, I don't know what is. And so you sit and you think about it, and it is enough to drive you freaking nuts. So you can't let it. You got to back away from it at some point and say, this is crazy, because it is. There's a rule of what I'm cluing into, and I'm learning more every day, getting a little wiser in my old age, although my brain isn't as sharp as it used to be. I have to admit that, because I'm getting up there. However, would I lack in memory like a goldfish? I hope I make up for it with a little bit of wisdom. Little bit, tiny little bit. What I'm learning is there are the laws of nature, though. And so if you want to know if something's true politically or economically, you have to look at the rules of nature. Does it hold true? Is it real, right? The law of supply and demand. It's a law. You can try to defy the law of nature, but eventually it's going to catch up with you, and there's just no denying it. Supply and demand. You have more of something, it's worth less. You have less of something, it's worth more. It's the same in politics. People can make all kinds of claims and say things ought to be this way or it ought to be that way. But at the end of the day, things can only work. You can only defy the laws of nature for so long. And so if you want to know if something is a valid idea in terms of political discourse or in the way that things actually are going to function in a society, you just have to think it through. If the government does this, if this person brings in this political ideology, what will happen? What, through the natural course of things, like physics, right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. If they do this, what happens over there? They can make all kinds of promises, but in the end, if they're promising you a bunch of free stuff, if they're telling you you're never going to have to work and get free things, maybe, but somebody's going to be paying for it. And the list of laws, natural laws, just goes on and on. And I'm not saying that I don't believe in, I'm not saying that I advocate for like natural law versus the systems that we have set up already. What I'm saying is politicians, they speak with forked tongues. They make all kinds of promises. You hear, people even like this Elon Pape. You hear people like that use words like freedom. We're going to free Palestine. Well, who the heck is making those promises? And what kind of person are they? What are they advocating for? How are they going to give you or give these people freedom? Who are they? He's a communist. So what's he actually advocating for? What's he promising? Communism. Extreme socialism. There's no question about it. Just look at his past. Look at who he's associated with. Look at his political ideology. Look at what he's said. Look at what he's written. That's what he's really pushing for. That's what I've been telling everybody all along. You think that this battle going on in Gaza right now is just over that piece of land? No, it's not. You think that what's going on in Ukraine right now is just over Ukraine? No, it's not. This is a geopolitical global struggle for power. It's the same old struggles, the same battle that we've been fighting for centuries. The West versus the East, communism versus capitalism, The anti-imperialists versus the United States. Freedom versus whatever it is that the other side has morphed into, because it is something a little bit different now. I would say it's convergence. It is a neo-communo-fascism. Ironically, it's like it's flipped on its head in a way, because now you have, it's like a neo-globalist fascism, or nationalism rather. And it's really hard to recognize because it is political modernism. You might say political or historical revisionism. It's justifying this new political modernism with a revised history. The 1619 Project, anti-colonialism, anti-imperialism, anti-American. That's what it is, versus this, whatever it is we have in the West, because it has evolved too, and you have, progressive liberalism and a lot of things that I don't like over here too. I'm not exactly sure what it is that we're fighting to protect over here anymore. And there are a lot of similarities between the two. And as I say, as I continue this rant of sorts, you can see why it drives you crazy after a while, right? Because everything I'm saying makes sense to me. I don't know if it's making any sense to you. Maybe I'm just talking in circles. Am I making any sense to anybody out there? Or am I just driving you all crazy? I don't know. Maybe it's time to take a break. Let's do that. And I'll come back a little bit. I'll settle down. And I'll try to act like I'm sane when I return.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I went searching for the video, The Raising Wolves, so that I should run, of Justin Trudeau yesterday, talking about the request from, well, I think Pierre Poilievre was asking for the Prime Minister to put a pause on the carbon tax, at least for, I think, the summer or something. Of course, he ain't going to do that. And then when asked about it in a news scrum, I don't know, is this from today or is it from yesterday? I've got this clip. Maybe this is it. Let's listen to what he says. He's talking about the tax here. I haven't heard the clip yet. All new to me. Let's just bring him in. The man of the moment, Mr. Fancy Socks. JT, take it away.
When he talks about axing the tax, he talks about stopping the fight against climate change at a time where the country is burning, at a time where floods and storms are having an impact on every corner of the country, and at a time when Canadians are struggling with the cost of living. He wants to take away checks that put more money in their pockets. His ideology is so strong, he would rather watch the country burn and Canadians suffer than continue to fight against climate change and put the Canada carbon rebate in their pockets.
he's talking about Pierre Poilievre asking him to put a pause on the tax. You see, the carbon tax. Got to have that carbon tax because that's going to change everything on the environmental front. Yeah, I don't think taxing people is going to change the weather. Myself, I don't think it's going to modify behavior enough to curb consumption to a degree where it's really going to have any real impact on the climate. But hey, vote whatever way you want, man. It's almost a free country. Now, there was, you can say what you want about Canada, okay? Some people don't like the country very much. Some people think it's this. Some people think it's that. But as bad as things are, we still got a lot of great people in this place we call Canada. I say it is a country. And proof of that is in the Toronto area, there was a young lad, a Jewish boy, who I guess has been having a lot of trouble because he's been going to school and he's been getting allegedly death threats. And it's because apparently they've been, using anti-Semitic slurs. Other kids have been throwing rocks at him. Well, a lot of people came out to support this young person. And he had over 150 people today walk to school with him to show him support, show him some love, and to protect him. And I've got a couple little clips here from that right now. Much bigger crowd than that. So you got that, and there was this poster that went out calling for the public to help out, walk this little boy to school. And that's what folks did. They came out to help him out. No flags, no banners. There weren't supposed to be any political signs of any kind there. It wasn't a political thing. It was just showing a little kid some support. Bullying of any kind is a terrible thing. It's a tough thing for kids to go through. I don't know if you ever went through it yourself. I certainly... I remember being targeted by some bullies when I was a kid. Nobody came out to walk me to school, mind you. But it is a reality that we have to deal with. Now let's go back to JT. From time to time, bullies. They come in all forms, don't they? Here's JT again. Let's cue him up. This is him responding to questions about TikTok. He has a warning. He says Canadians need to listen, should be listening to CSIS, Canadian Security and Intelligence Service, who have just come out and issued a statement warning people about TikTok because it is being used, according to the intelligence service, by the People's Republic of China, the government there, the Chinese Communist government, to track people, accumulate data, and there is some concern about the security of private data and maybe even national security concerns as well. And in the United States, we've seen the government there say that they will ban the application unless they cut ties, if the company doesn't cut ties with China. Not sure what's going to happen. You can make your own assessment, make your own choices. This is what JT had to say about this.
Génération. Merci d'être ici aujourd'hui. Je suis maintenant très content de prendre vos questions.
We will now begin the media availability. One question, one follow-up. First question goes to CDC.
CSIS Director David Vignon is warning Canadians against using TikTok in light of his comments and what he knows about how it operates. Do you think TikTok is safe for Canadians, and do you see a role for government in regulating TikTok?
Well, obviously, as a government, we lean heavily on CSIS and our intelligence agencies to keep Canadians safe. And when the director of CSIS is pointing out that TikTok poses a real threat to the data security of Canadians, I think Canadians need to listen. Obviously, we already took measures as a government to ensure that all federal computers and phones do not have the TikTok app applied to them. That's a risk that we don't want for our government, but I know more organizations, orders of governments are looking at that very seriously as well. We need to continue to have a conversation with Canadians about how they remain safe online. Yes, there's a role for government, and we'll continue to consult and work with Canadians on that. It's important that we empower Canadians to make smarter choices about keeping themselves and their families safe online. That's one of the reasons why we're moving forward with an Online Harms Act focused on keeping kids safe and making sure that our online world is as safe or even safer than our in real life world.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm on TikTok. It seemed to be working really well for a while, and then I think I put some stuff up that maybe the people who run TikTok didn't like, and then it's kind of like the viewership like came way down. I was getting thousands, and now I get like almost nothing. Just sit in my chair, I'll get somebody upset. You'll get somebody upset real quick. I'm not banned on there or anything, but it was working real well for a little while, and now not so much. But I don't know. TikTok, is it really a risk? It could be. I've heard intelligence experts, and I've read some reports from private intelligence services that provide information to government on TikTok. So I've read some of that stuff, and it's described by some of those experts as it can be a weapon. It's a propaganda tool, as all social media is. TikTok in particular, though, being controlled by the company that it is a concern to Western governments. Now, I don't know, all of these social media platforms are collecting data on us. What is it about TikTok that's of special concern? I guess it's because it's a foreign government. Maybe because they're not based here. There are concerns that they could do an end run around our privacy laws and get into people's personal information. And while I suppose what I am doing online, or what my online shopping habits might be, or what videos I watch might not be of any kind of a national security issue or of really any value to a foreign government for political or safety reasons. There might be a lot of other people out there who do have contacts with people who are privy to sensitive information. And as we know, there are ongoing concerns about, say, the Chinese government stealing proprietary information from companies, research, medical information, medical data, medical research, biotechnology information, military secrets. And it's amazing what kind of information is just floating around out there in cyberspace. So yeah, I can see how it might be a real legitimate concern. I do see why it's a legitimate concern for government. How much of a threat is it really? I don't know. How much of it can be mitigated through security measures, legislation, maybe even some sort of government firewalls or fire fences online, I don't know. Would it actually be any better if TikTok was just owned by, if the ownership of the company was placed in hands that didn't have connections to the Communist Party in China, Communist government? I don't know. Like I say, I don't know. I don't have enough information to make a full assessment. I don't think any of us do. Should we just... But I think we should be mindful of it. Not just of what the Chinese government is doing with TikTok, but what our government is doing too. I'm kind of worried about JT. Look what happened with the Give, Send, Go. And the people who donated to the... Was it GoFundMe? Both. Anyway, the Give, Send, Go got hacked. Then the government took that information, which was then out in the public, and they went through the list. And there were reprimands issued to a lot of people, like police officers and others who had donated to the Freedom Convoy. That's just another example of online security, what happens to your information, how much privacy are you entitled to. It's a legitimate concern, I would say. So, be mindful. What other stories do we have lined up for you here? There is this story about Israel recovering the bodies of 3 people who were killed by Hamas in that October 7th attack. I don't know what kind of treatment to give this. I'm just gonna, you know, I'm just gonna show you what the mainstream media is doing with it, because this is real. It's tragic. What level of, how much weight should the media be giving this? That's open for discussion, I suppose. The editors, the editorial staff at all the news organizations out there have made their decisions on this, and it's resulted in this kind of coverage with, this NBC. So Israel recovers bodies of 3 killed by Hamas in music festival attack. And they talk about Shani Luke, 23, Amit Buskila, 28, and Itzik Gelenter, 57. They ran away from the festival when the attack happened, but they were chased and then killed by Hamas insurgents, and their bodies were later taken to Gaza. So Israeli officials are not saying exactly where they found the bodies, but they did find them together yesterday in a tunnel during a military operation, according to the IDF. And one of the reasons this is making headlines is because there was video and there were photos of not just the attack, but of these specific victims. And so there was a attention focused on it in the beginning, and now we have this. So their bodies have been transferred so that medical professionals can conduct a full autopsy and forensic examination, and to, of course, confirm identification. And as much as I say there's an information war going on, this is part of it as well. And I'm mindful of that, because just as you see video, a lot of it heavily produced for propaganda purposes, on the Hamas side, you also have information warfare coming back on the Israeli side, and this is part of it. This is very real. Do people need to know about this? I'd say yes. But there's an information warfare aspect to this particular story as well. I'm mindful of it, so I'm just not saying it's not a legitimate story. It is. I hope you understand how I'm framing all of this for you, though, right? And it's unfortunate that any of this is happening. Okay. else do we have? Okay. Let me take a break. I'm going to come back. We're going to talk about this guy who had a boat in his driveway. His neighbor complained, wanted the boat gone or something, and he's had a very unique way of dealing with it. So this is kind of entertaining. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay with me.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media outlets publish these things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In an ocean of lies a century deep, the truth awaits. Choose not the red pill. Choose not the blue pill. For both are an illusion. Discover the power of M. The power of individuality. We are Mavericks. We are the way to the light. Fear not the storm. Join our quest for truth. Truth will set you free. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I'm back. So before we get to the boat story, let's go back to JT, shall we? Now, I know that, and the reason being, one of our main headlines tonight is that Trudeau, the end is near. That is something that I'm hearing some other online streamers, influencers, political pundits out there saying. And it's pretty clear why. All you have to do is go to the most recent polls. Take a look at this. This is the 338 poll. And look at where we are at. All you have to do is look at this map, and you can see that JT is in a lot of trouble. Now, we've talked a little bit about him tonight already. Going to talk about him just a little bit more. All you got to do is look. Okay, this is provincial. This is federal. Right there. There you go. So, see all the blue? The blue is Conservative Party of Canada. All out west. Blue, 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 blue. BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario. Get out into Newfoundland. 5 seats. Blue. PEI. Solid blue. Nova Scotia. 8 blue. 3 red. Liberal. New Brunswick. 7 blue for the Conservative. 3 projected for the Liberals. In Quebec, a little bit different story because you have the Bloc Québécois there. They would take 38 seats, 25 for the Liberals, 14 for the Conservatives. In Ontario, whoa, this is why they would win the election. With a majority. 88 seats projected for the Conservatives in Ontario alone. Only 25 for the Liberals, 8 for the NDP. I think that's 1 for the Green Party. Way down there on the bottom. Scroll down. So it ain't looking good for Justin Trudeau. Just saying. That's why I'm hearing a lot of talk just within the last 24 hours that JT's time is just about up. But he can still stretch it out until sometime later in 2025. He could be with us for over another year yet. That's an eternity in politics. But then he's got to deal with his estranged wife, who wrote that book and keeps making television appearances and saying things that are just so uncomfortable for him. And here she is on TV again, He's hanging out with, with a gaggle of girls, having a gaggle at his expense. But this is Sophie Trudeau. She doesn't really talk about him here, but I wanted to run this clip because, even though she's not hanging out with JT anymore, she does reminisce about jet setting all over the world and hanging out with the world's elite. But at the end of the day, she just wants to be a regular person. Just like you, just like me, just a regular, everyday kind of Sophie. Because she's just a regular girl.
A lot of celebrities and met kings and queens and popes and name it, right? I had an incredible privilege, but at the same time, I realized one thing. It's all an illusion. The titles, the accomplishments, it's what kind of human being are you and what's left when the spotlights are off, and how do you talk to yourself in your bedroom when nobody's looking? That's the human being I want to be. A lot of celebrities and
well, how do you talk to yourself when you're in your bedroom alone? Did you notice that? Did you see? She's just such a, she's so regular, like just such a regular Sophie, that even on national television, you see how she just kind of reaches up and casually snaps her bra strap? Doesn't even bat an eye, just keeps on going. Let's watch again. She's just a regular kind of person.
A lot of celebrities and met kings and queens and popes and name it, right? I had an incredible privilege, but at the same time, I realized one thing.
Snap.
It's all an illusion. The titles, the accomplishments, it's what kind of human being are you and what's left when the spotlights are off, and how do you talk to yourself in your bedroom when nobody's looking? That's the human being I want to be.
Well, how do you talk to yourself in your bedroom when you're alone and nobody's looking? Okay, first of all, am I in front of a mirror? Secondly, do I have any clothes on? Am I posing? What do I say to myself? I don't know. How many of you talk to yourselves in your bedroom when you're all alone? What do you say? I'm going to go to the chat. What do you say to yourself in your bedroom when you're all alone? Longmeadow says, Rick, the U.S. doesn't like TikTok because the dual citizen politicians were told by Israel that there is too much Palestine support on it. Free speech is good unless you call it Israel. Okay. Rose says Palestine ads on YouTube. I've seen those. And raising those, does anybody have the most up-to-date? That's the most up-to-date 338 that I just showed you. There are other polls out there too, but that's the 338. I go back to that one all the time. They update it regularly. And how is my case with Facebook going? They have not responded yet, Rosie. I did send that escalation to Facebook, and I am still waiting for a response. I think they're going to drag it out. They're probably afraid to respond now because it's a legal matter. My guess is what's probably happened, and I can't confirm this, but I'm thinking they've probably kicked it up to their legal department, and so now I'll have to wait to see what they do. Well, first of all, ladies, do you snap your bra strap when you're on national television the way Sophie does? You got to that takes a lot of confidence. Now, I don't personally wear a bra, so I can't relate. But that's a new one. I don't think I've even seen anybody do that on The Tonight Show. Although, didn't Drew Barrymore one time, didn't she flash David Letterman with her tatas? I think there's video of that on. I know there is. I've seen it. It's not speculation. It happened. It's real. So there's Sophie. So what do you guys say to yourselves in the bedroom when you're alone? I don't know. What does that mean? I don't know. That was weird language. I'm gonna watch it one more time. What does she mean by that? What kind of person are you? What do you say to yourself when you're in your bedroom alone? I don't know, that's weird.
A lot of celebrities and met kings and queens and popes and name it, right? I had an incredible privilege, but at the same time, I realized one thing. It's all an illusion. The titles, the accomplishments, it's what kind of human being are you and what's left when the spotlights are off, and how do you talk to yourself in your bedroom when nobody's looking? That's the human being I want to be. A lot of...
Well, I'll tell you this. Normally for me, when I go into the bedroom at night and I'm all alone, it's kind of like, it's just like collapse. I'm so old. Oh man, let's watch the bra strap in slow motion, shall we? Okay, bra strap, slow-mo, Sophie Trudeau.
Celebrities and met kings and queens and popes and name it, right?
Name it, right?
I had an incredible privilege, but at the same time, I realized one thing. It's all an illusion.
It's enough to drive crazy.
Titles. The accomplishments.
Yes, the accomplishments.
Is what kind of human being are you, and what's left when the spotlights are off? And how do you talk to yourself in your bedroom when nobody's looking? That's the human being I
wanna be.
Yay! Celebrities and men.
Hooray, Sophie, for being the kind of human being that you want to be. One more time, just the bra strap snap. The Sophie bra strap snap.
I had an incredible privilege, but at the same time, I realized one thing.
You could. I wonder if she uses that thing for a slingshot. when she got upset with JT in the bedroom, it's like, boom! I'm out of here, loser. I'm sorry. Oh, I don't even know. Like, it's just that what she was saying. It just didn't even make any sense to me. What kind of person are you in the bedroom when you're all alone talking to yourself? What medication do you take? Oh, man. Oh, what a night. You want to talk about the boat? Okay, we'll do the boat. So this dude, this is a California dude out in the city of Seaside. And the city ordered him not to park his boat in his driveway. This was originally reported in USA Today. Seaside, California. Etienne Costabal had this boat, and it was in his driveway, and he needed to hide it from view, or this constable, Etienne Constable, whatever, man, I don't know, because I'm a Canadian, Anglophone, trying to sound like I'm a French man with a Canadian-French accent, talking about the Constable guy out there in the seaside California. Now I've turned into Rosanna Dana, and I don't even know how kind of accent I got now, but it's not French anymore. But maybe that's a California accent, I don't know, but he could have faced a $100 fine. However, instead of relocating his 19-foot Arima Sea Ranger, came up with a different kind of plan. I guess he put up a fence and then paid some other dude who was an artist to make a mural to make it look like the boat was still sitting in his driveway. Because, you know, he wanted to abide by the law and not be a troublemaker, but he also wanted to make a political statement. So this is a way to exercise your right to free speech and engage in a level of, I guess, civil disobedience. I'm going to share this report from the local TV station with you here. This is KSBW Special Report. Man parks boat in driveway. Here we go. Breaking news.
Seaside man getting a lot of attention for what he did to comply with an order from the city. City told him to get his boat out from public view. So he built a fence, only to have his neighbor, who's an artist, paint a photorealistic version of the boat on the fence. Now, pictures of the boat have gone viral online. The boat owner says the mural looks terrific.
Not a rule breaker, but I am like to make a political statement as necessary, and as well as a humorous statement and a creative statement. So I'm, you know, all in favor of generating discussion and making people smile. And the reaction is extremely more than we ever expected, and we're both just tickled about it. It's pretty cool.
I'm a big proponent for public art in spaces. I love creating public art in spaces, and I think it engages people in ways that, you know, reaching out and having conversations doesn't sometimes, or if you're not there, it just kind of inspires conversation.
Gotta say, the artist nailed it. Says other homeowners who got similar letters have already reached out to him for murals at their homes.
KSBW Action News. And that's the way it is on this 17th day of May, 2024. Folks, I'll be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat station. Love you guys. Thank you so much for spending the night with me and the whole Maverick family together. Really appreciate it. Privilege, as always. Here to serve. I'll be back tomorrow on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.